Welcome back to Core HTML Mastery. At this stage, we have a fairly solid understanding of the most important aspects of HTML. At this stage, we're going to circle back and revisit the information that should be included as part of the head tag in HTML. We have a blank HTML page, and inside our head tags, one of the first things that we're going to include is a title element. And we're going to give the page the title, My Awesome Page. And if you take a look at the HTML document on the right in the browser, at the top, we can see a tab with the title. And at the moment, it just contains the location on our hard drive where the index.html file is located. Now, if we refresh the page, notice that tab has a title, My Awesome Page. So if the user has many tabs open, it's going to be easy to see which tab belongs to which page. Also, inside the head tag, we'll have many metadata tags. Now, metadata means information about information. So we're storing information about our page, how it should be displayed, and then the metadata is information about that information. So it's information about our HTML document. And one of the things that's fairly typical to include is a char set or character set attribute. And in most cases, this will be set to UTF-8. Now, UTF-8 character encoding includes every character from every human language. It's a very large collection of characters. So this is the most common option we're going to be using. It's not the only option, but in most cases, we'll use UTF-8. And to be honest, in most cases, if you didn't include this, the page is still going to work fine. It's just a case of being aware that this is an option we can configure as part of the metadata. There's also other types of metadata we can include. And in most cases, the meta tag is going to follow a simple format. It's going to have a name attribute and it's going to have a content attribute. And technically, we can include whatever we want as the name attribute and the content attribute. But there are certain types of metadata that are important to include. And one example is the description of the content. So if we set name is description and content, a description about my HTML page. And if we save and refresh, we'll see absolutely nothing happens. So in that case, what is the point of having a meta description? Well, this is something that's going to be used by search engines. We've got a quick example of this on the MDN Web Docs page. So this particular page for MDN Web Docs has this meta description. So notice the same format there as we've used, name equals description, content. Then it goes on to say the MDN Web Docs site provides information, etc., etc., etc. So notice that piece of text that's been input as the meta description. And then notice this Google search for MDN Web Docs. And we can see the first match is the MDN Web Docs site. But notice the text beneath the search result. This is not actually the text from the page itself. This is the text from the meta description. The MDN Web Docs site provides information, blah, blah, blah. It's exactly the same as the information that was stored in the meta description. So you can see the use in this case. It allows the user or the searcher to get idea about what that website contains without opening that website, because beneath the search result, we have that meta description being displayed. So this is just an example regarding how that metadata might be used. It's not going to change the actual HTML page itself, just going to impact how the search engine displays the result. So we can see that Google makes use of that meta description, but other pages might not. There might be some fairly unique types of metadata that are used by specific pages. So really, we can include anything in the metadata. Another common type of metadata that might be used is something like author. Content equals, let's just put author's name here. So depending on the context, that information about the author of a certain piece of content might be used. For example, certain types of content management systems might make use of this piece of metadata. And of course, we need to remember to close our meta tags also. Something else we can include is known as a favicon or favicon if you just read the word itself. So you may have seen this before, favicon, or I guess it actually stands for favorite icon. It's a condensed form of favorite icon. What is a favorite icon? Well, let's just take a look And as soon as we implement this, you'll probably recognize it. Assuming that you've spent some time browsing the web, you'll recognize what this is. So we're going to say link, we're going to say rel equals icon, and we're going to give it a href attribute. And if you have a look in the images folder here, we actually have favicon.ico. And you can see, I'm really not sure exactly what it is. It's some kind of image. It might be a love heart or something. I'm really not sure. But let's just see what we can do with that icon if we set the href attribute to point to that image. So we're going to go into the images folder and we're going to grab favicon.ico. And we're going to close that link tag and we're going to refresh. Notice that the tab for my page now has a small icon next to it. And you'll see many web pages that you visit make use of a fave icon in the top left. So it's just another way to remind your user that this particular tab in your browser belongs to this particular site. So you'd probably have a very small version of your logo here. And these icons are generally very small, something like 16 pixels by 16 pixels. So again, there's no reason why you wouldn't have this. So we definitely want the title, but we also want a favorite icon there in the top left. Now, inside the head, we also want to include CSS, and we also want to include any JavaScript. And by the way, if you notice the syntax I'm using on the screen right now, this is how you can create a comment in HTML. So it just helps to explain what the different pieces of the HTML code are written for. So beneath our CSS comment, we'd probably include some CSS, and beneath our JavaScript comment, we can include some JavaScript. Now we'll get to that shortly. Just keep in mind that comments are visible to your end user. If I go to view page source here, you can see our comments are visible. So an example of a really fundamental security mistake is to assume that users can't see the HTML comment and then perhaps store something like administrator or server passwords inside the HTML comments. You do not want to do that. Your user can simply check out the page source and they see these comments here. Now, there are a couple of different ways of implementing CSS and JavaScript, and we're going to chat about those in the next part of the course.